I'd like to introduce you to, for those of you who may not know, our group's co-founder and leader, Frank Kovacs. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, everyone. As I was saying to those that were on early, the marketplace is changing very quickly. This new multi-generational workplace that we find ourselves in has always been there, but given the nature of how work is done, the impact of digital, the impact of the veteran community, there's a lot of forces or dynamics at play right now. So attending meetings like this and understanding each other's perspectives is definitely more critical than it's ever been, because when you go in for that job interview, there are so many different dynamics to understand and to consider in both your job search and also in how to succeed in today's marketplace. So please, we welcome you being here. Hopefully we give you some more information that will be helpful to you, and it's up to you at the end of the day to figure out, what you use and how you prioritize. So thank you, and I'm sure you'll enjoy today's session. I'll throw it over to Jerry, who runs our presentation committee with David. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, everyone. Speaker, Lynne Williams. Lynne, I'd like to introduce today Lynne Williams, EDD Careers Group, provides online career education and networking for career transition and career management. She also writes resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and LinkedIn company pages and focuses on keywords. She is working on her doctoral dissertation on the topic of LinkedIn. I'd now like to introduce Lynne.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me. We're going to talk about some job search strategies today. So I will put the link to this deck in the chat when I can get to that at the end. So you don't have to take screenshots or anything like that of anything I do. But I am going to do some live demos. So I will come up for air, every once in a while and ask if you have questions before I transition to another topic. So today's learning objectives, we have 4. I've listed them here on one page, but I'm going to break them down one by one as they come up. So here's the first one. We're going to ask you to have a list of some key job search strategies, tactics, and career management resources. So you all know you've got to have a resume, and you got to make sure you have a modern resume format, no objectives, references, or profile summary at the top. And you've got to optimize your LinkedIn profile with keywords. You got to work on building a brand. Your banner is your billboard, so you've got to make that stand out. It's not about having a beach scene or a mountain scene or anything like that. I mean, you've got to build something so people know who you are and what you do. I hear some background noise, so you might want to mute somebody there, David. You also need to have a headline on LinkedIn that makes you stand out. And I've been using some headline analyzers to make that happen recently, and I've been having a lot of fun with those. So if we have a chance, maybe I'll share that a little bit later. You have to have some sort of an elevator pitch, and I like the idea of something called a memory dart. If you've got something that's short and sweet, people will remember. But if you go on and on and on, people tune out. So the memory dart is by a gentleman who published an article. His name is, I forget his first name. His last name is Woodruff. And he wrote about 15 seconds. So, here's an example. My name is Lynne Williams, and I guide you to your keywords to beat the bots. Lynne Williams. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in a vivid image when I'm telling you what it is that I do. Hopefully it piques your interest to make a conversation start so that you want to learn more. Then you have to create a networking plan. Networking has to be a habit. So here you are today, and that's a great thing. So, you're making an effort to get out and talk to people, whether it's in person or on Zoom, but you got to make those connections and let people know that you are in job search, because people want to help, and if you sit behind a desk or sit on the couch eating bonbons and watching TV, that's not going to get the word out that you're looking for a job. But when you are looking for a job, you need to track your job search activities. So whether you have some sort of a CRM or an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, you've got to have some place where you can collect your information as to who you spoke to, write some notes, the company name, contacts, and, etc. So those are basic job search strategies you all know you need to have. Now, you might also want to write some articles so you can share your expertise. I love this little quote from my professor at Penn State Great Valley, who said, "Riches in niches." And if you have some sort of area of expertise, then by all means, toot your horn on that and share that area of expertise. So on LinkedIn, you can not only write a one-off article, but you can also write an ongoing newsletter, and you can set the cadence of the newsletter. Do you want to do it weekly, bi-monthly, monthly, quarterly? Just keep a schedule of regularity and consistency. So I write a newsletter article weekly. Usually I get it out on Fridays, but I was not feeling well yesterday, so I did not get it out on Friday. So I'm going to try and get it out some point in time today. And another thing is volunteer, or seek out a board position. One of my favorite books is called The Go-Giver, and I think that became my mantra back in 2013 when I was seeking a job. It was give, and here I am still today doing my presentations a decade later, and still sharing my knowledge and expertise. So if you have a gap on your LinkedIn profile, if you were volunteering for a nonprofit organization, you could fill that gap by saying that you're volunteering for a nonprofit organization so that you have a present job on your LinkedIn profile. Now, you got to fine tune your interview skills. Practice, practice, practice. There are several platforms available online where you can record yourself answering questions. And I put a couple links in here so you can explore those resources. And I'm sure there's more now. Like, it's crazy. When I wrote about the applicant tracking system in 2014, there were over 200 applicant tracking systems. Now there's over 500. So with, technology coming on, and the craze of AI, things change. So I can't even tell you how many interview prep platforms there are now, because there's just so many of them. Also, become a lifelong learner. You never want to stop learning. So here you are attending this workshop, and there's lots of other organizations that have workshops for job seekers. So before I move on, does anybody have any questions? David, you're going to have to moderate because I'm not able to see the chat right now.
Sure. If anyone has a question that you want to put in chat, I'll just ask a favor. Please put the word question in front of whatever your question is. A lot of people are putting other comments as well, and the word question will help that stand out a bit. So one question is from Kay. Where are the places to fine-tune interview skills?
Oh, okay. So let me click on this one. So Goodwill, Delaware. Okay, Goodwill, Delaware. If you set up an account here, they have an online platform where you can. Sorry, I have a very bad cough here today. Where you can record yourself answering questions. So they got a grant from Google, and so take advantage of that resource. The other one is MrSimon.ai, so you can practice interview questions for free there. But on LinkedIn, if you go to the Jobs tab, oh, look at all these things popping up here. If you go to the Jobs tab, they have an interview prep section, and they give you common questions, and then an overview of some of the answers. So you might want to review that. That's not a video prep, but if you look at these questions, you can also go on Zoom and record yourself and take a look at how you answered that question when you are on camera. And what did you look like? What did your face look like, and your smile, and where'd your eyes go, etc. So there's, I'm sure there's plenty of more platforms. I know a few more now, but I just, I'm keeping it short and sweet with just a couple right now. Any other questions before I move on?
There are no other questions in the chat right now.
All righty. Now, many of you know this by different names. I call it a one-pager. It might be a marketing document, a handbill, that type of thing. So a lot of times when you are at job seeker groups and they're doing just straight networking, you can share a one-page document where you have an overview and a recap of your work history and who you are and what you do. But the most important thing is to put your target companies on there. And a lot of times people will put them at the bottom in a list in columns, maybe 3 or 4 columns. And I don't know, it's easier if you process them in alphabetical order. So if you've got a bunch of people in a meeting, whether you have it online or whether you really are at a round table at an in-person meeting, you can bring a pile of these one-pagers, hand them out to people, and when people are presenting themselves, you could be looking at the target company list, and that's when you offer to share who you might know at a particular person's target company to help them out. So you've probably heard that 80% of jobs are found via networking. So you have to get out there and do networking. Now, there's a link here. So let's go here. So here's the one pager for networking. This is on the greatcareers.org page, FAQ page. So if you scroll down here, it says, what is a one pager and why do I need one? And how do I create one? And then there's a PDF and a Word document that you can see as an example. I probably need to update that. Somebody else gave me that link or that example, and it's a little stale. It's a little old in my humble opinion. So I don't know. I like mine because I've got pops of color, but not everybody wants to waste colored ink, printing these things out. And we used to print these out like a dime a dozen before the pandemic. But not every job seeker group uses these. Also, reference solutions. This is a video from the Free Library, Philadelphia. And they had a representative from Reference Solutions come and do a presentation. So if you need to come up with a list of target companies, basically you have a database that's available probably from your local library. You may have to have a library card to access that database. And if you put in pharmaceutical industry, and I'm going to make up a number because I really don't know what it is. Maybe it's 80021. So you go back in, and now that you know what the SIC or NAICS number is for pharmaceuticals, you plunk that number back in, and you say within a 10-mile radius, a 20-mile radius, 30-mile radius, etc. And that's a way of coming up with your target company list. I'm going to keep going on unless you pop in with questions. Now, if you've never sent out a MailChimp, it's a way of communicating with people in your network, but you have to know there's something called the CAN-SPAM Act of 2003. You cannot just create a MailChimp and add people to your mail list without asking them permission first. It's something like a $43,000 or $46,000 fine or something ridiculous in that, $40,000 range per person if you violate the CAN-SPAM Act. So you have to ask people permission if you can add them to your, weekly newsletter or monthly newsletter. You can create a Google Sites, and I think David is your man for that. I think David creates Google Sites. You can build a newsletter on a Google site and refer people to that and put information on. So what kind of sections can you put in your newsletter? Welcome paragraph, about me, networking philosophy, how I can help. You got to make an offer to help the other person. And final thoughts. You could add quotes or good books or something interesting to share. Now, why do I say MailChimp instead of Aweber and Constant Contact and MadMimi and other equivalents? It's because MailChimp is free if you have a mailing list of less than 500 people. So here's an example email that you can, send out to people. I have had a couple people in my network use email marketing so to speak, as a job seeker. And, the creativity abounds. So, feel free to explore this as a job search strategy. It's a little bit different, out of the norm, but it's something that may possibly work for you. All right. You also might want to do some informational interviews. In 2020, I decided I wanted to do an informational interview to explore what it was like to be a career advisor at a university. So I drafted up an agenda and I sent it to someone when they agreed to have a meeting with me. We didn't get to all the questions, but because I set a time of like 15 minutes or something like that. But she's like, "Oh no, I can go more," and she wanted to answer all the questions, but I wanted to be respectful of her time and and not take up more time if she didn't have it. So right here on this link, how to use LinkedIn to set up informational interviews. So I wrote an article, and there's lots of links in here with so many ideas and questions that you can use. So for me, there was no sense reinventing the wheel. So you can reference that if you want to set up informational interviews. Now, you probably remember that when you were little, your mommy and daddy told you, don't talk to strangers. Well, here you are as a job seeker, and I'm telling you, you do want to talk to strangers. So you can do an informational interview with people that you know, and you can also do it with strangers. So take advantage of, meeting new people. And, God's blessed us with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So people like to talk about themselves. So you never ask for a job, but you always ask for information and ask people how they went along their career trajectory, or what education or certifications that they had to earn to get to where they are, or maybe they did a career pivot or a reinvention. You can ask them about that. So it's possible that once you establish a relationship with them, you could ask, well, what's the culture of the company like? I saw a position that I'd like to explore with your company, and hearing all this great stuff from you, I'd like to know about a little more about the culture of the company. So if you've built that relationship and started a rapport with them, it's quite possible that they might say, "Oh, well, hey, why don't you send me your resume? And, let me pass it on to that hiring manager." So that's kind of a way of getting your foot in the door, by just reaching out to a stranger and asking them to talk about themselves. You can also write a value proposition letter. So a value proposition letter is 100 to 150 words. It is different from a cover letter in that it might ask a question, and then it gives 3 bullet points with some accomplishments of what you've done in the past, as well as other little bits and pieces of information. So if you have a target company list and you draft up some personalized value proposition letters, maybe to the CEO, to the CIO, to the CXO, whatever, you don't send your resume with this. you only send the value proposition letter, and it's something called snail mail in an envelope with a stamp, which is probably something unique now. Now, you never know, with companies have changed since the pandemic. So many companies have gone like completely remote now, or they've reduced their office space to something very tiny compared to what they've had in the past. So hopefully the person that you're sending the letter to will get it if it is via snail mail. But we get so much email. I don't know about you, but I'm inundated with email every day. So it's kind of fun to have an actual letter. Sometimes it's something that's a little bit different. Any questions so far, David?
Oops, sorry. There are no questions. There are just some comments here.
All right. So how do you write a value proposition letter? Here's this question. You state who you are, and then you state a couple accomplishments. When you close, you have to say, I'm going to schedule a call in the next week to explore how I can help you. You want to make sure you follow up. Like, don't not follow up. You got to follow through on your promises. But it's a way of targeting companies that you'd like to work for. Maybe you read an article in the Business Journal and you're reading between the lines and you figure, gee, maybe there's something there where they could utilize my services. So it's like, throwing a dart out there and seeing if it will stick. It is a little bit different job search strategy. It's being proactive rather than reactive. You're not reacting to applying to a job description. You're being proactive applying to a target company. So next thing is, we're going to talk about how do you research your best keywords for your resume and LinkedIn. When I work with clients, I always start with the resume, because if you've got good content written on a resume, it can be copy and pasted on LinkedIn. But you have to analyze your keywords on LinkedIn, and then you really have to reevaluate your keywords on LinkedIn in the skills section. You have to evaluate your headline, what's in the about section, what's in your experience section, because you never know what synonym of a word is going to be better. So I get asked a lot, should your resume and LinkedIn be matchy-matchy? Well, yes and no. I believe in working hard to getting to a good, solid base resume. And that base resume will go on LinkedIn. But you should be customizing and tailoring your resume to each and every job description. So if you have a format that allows that ease of customizing in like 5 minutes, it should be easy peasy. Some people think it's overwhelming when I say that. Well, you must not have the right format for your resume to make that happen. But if you work hard to get good content on your resume, it definitely can easily be used in LinkedIn. just formatted in a slightly different way. So we're going to talk a little bit more about keywords, and I'm going to do a live demo. The applicant tracking system, as I said, there's now over 500 ATS systems, and you never know what you're going to get, with 200, over 200, 10 years ago, there used to be, the big boys, the iSIMS and the Workday and whatnot. So now if there's over 500, we don't know what we don't know as far as what we're going to get in the way of these systems. So the idea is to have a resume that the bots can read and extract the information out of your resume and put them into the fields of a database. So first name goes in the first name field, last name goes in the last name field, phone number goes in the phone number field, etc. So if you have a highly formatted resume, or you have these section breaks and whatnot, it's going to be difficult for the ATS to read the resume. So therefore, I believe in having a pretty resume for humans with a pop color and a deconstructed resume for the bot. Deconstructed resume, I typically do Arial 12-point font, and I have to move a few things around for the normal way that an ATS would kind of suck information out of a resume to put it into the system. This is where I'm going to come back and do some demos. I'm going to use WordArt, and I'm going to do a Google Sheets, and that's coming up. But I'm going to keep moving on just a little bit, and we'll come back to this slide. So learning objective 3, know how to take your base resume and customize it to the keywords in a job description. When you are carefully reading a job description, if you think about when you were in college, you had your college textbooks and you had that yellow highlighter pen. You would read your textbooks and highlight stuff that you thought was important. And when it came for the midterm or the final, you would go back and reread just the highlights, and maybe you made some annotations, with some mnemonic devices or something like that to remember the information for studying for your exam. You're kind of doing the same thing with a job description. You're going to carefully read and highlight, and you're going to highlight what you think are keywords or key phrases. Now, keywords are typically going to be 1, 2, or 3 words. There's going to be an exception if it's a hyphenated word, like cross-functional team leadership. Cross-functional, in essence, is going to be 1 word, even though it's hyphenated, and then team leadership. So if you get into anything longer than that, it's a key phrase. LinkedIn is a database, and you have to go with the flow with the database. You can put what you think are your keywords and sprinkle them throughout your LinkedIn profile. But when it comes to the skills section, you kind of got to go with the flow with the database. You can't make up stuff. Otherwise, you will not reap the rewards if you are making up words or phrases that you think are descriptive of what you do. So that'll come out in the demo.
Excuse me,
So
Lynn.
here, sure.
Yep, there is one question from Kimberly from your earlier point. When applying for jobs online, they ask for your resume, but also ask for the same info in the form, which I guess is the web page. How important is the form versus the actual resume?
The form.
So I guess that's the page where you're putting in the information that is also on the resume. And Kimberly, you can
Yeah,
clarify that, please.
yeah. So when you go in, it basically says upload your resume, and then it says add literally line by line, work experience one, responsibilities, and I have to admit I have taken a shortcut because it's a real pain in the neck doing the same exact information almost and copying it over. So I'm just curious, and sometimes I've said see resume. So what are they looking at first? I guess that how it comes in the form or your actual resume.
Interesting. I do an entire presentation on the applicant tracking system. If you upload your resume and it doesn't automatically copy and paste into those little boxes, you might want to reevaluate your resume. You may not have a bot-friendly resume. It might be too highly formatted, or you may have columns or something.
Okay.
It has to be left justified, and no lines, no borders, no shading, no columns, no tables, no this, that, and the other thing. So when it says upload, that's why I believe in having a deconstructed resume, Arial 12-point font, nothing else other than black bullet point. And when it gets to the end of the applicant tracking system, it might say, do you want to attach your resume? That's when I would attach this pretty blue lined resume.
Okay. Super helpful. Thank you.
So if you think of this resume that has these shaded blue lines, to me, if you go to colorpsychology.org and you look up the color blue, it has more positive than negative connotations, and it works for men, it works for women. I have one style of resume. That's it. One and only one. It's kind of like a PowerPoint. You're going to tell them what you're going to tell them. You're going to tell them, and then you can't tell them what you just told them, because it's a document. Same thing with LinkedIn. It has sections. You're going to tell them what you're going to tell them, and you tell them. So I think the pop of color helps our eyes draw attention to the sections. So if you look at this article or the image on the right, there's an article that was put out in 2012 by Business Insider, and they did a study with recruiters who were looking at people's resumes, and it says what recruiters look at during the 6 seconds they spend on your resume. Well, the resume on the left has those heat maps of where the recruiter's eyes went. It goes about 2/3 of the way down. Whereas the resume on the right has these shaded bands. It goes from top to bottom. So it drew their eyes down through the whole resume. Now, these are just, black and white, shots. I don't know what color those shaded bands were. Maybe they were gray, but so it was honestly based upon this article that I'm like, wow, I'm gonna adopt this style of resume. And I know lots of other LinkedIn and resume writing people that I've had, as speakers in my organization. I see them pulling up something similar to this. So it makes me feel like I'm on track here. So here we go. Let's click on this. Here's this article. And there's that screenshot. So I use this format, and I do what I do for a purpose. Lots of people have profile summary at the top, and I think that's a wasted line. Do you want to be a profile summary when you grow up? Probably not. I know I don't want to be a profile summary when I grow up. So you have to have a headline, just like on LinkedIn. You wouldn't type profile summary on LinkedIn as your headline. That's, Manhattan real estate right there. So same thing on your resume. Tell people what you want to be when you grow up so that they know what kind of resume they're focused on. And then when you're writing this profile summary paragraph, start with exactly what you want to be when you grow up, not results oriented, happy-go-lucky professional, blah, blah, blah. No fluffy adjectives. Get right to the point. Then I put in core competencies, and yes, these are columns, but I do put them in alphabetical order. Because when a hiring manager is looking at this list, they're going to see they're in alphabetical order, and they're going to be able to discern in their head must-haves, nice-to-haves, oh, and here she also has. Then I do something a little bit different, career highlights. And, career highlights, you can either put in buckets of sweet spots, or you can do the starting it with a verb and putting in some sort of a metrics on how you helped a company make money, save time. Now, you've probably heard when you go to a website, it's kind of what's above the fold. And if you were to take your resume and fold it in half, it's kind of what's above the fold. It's that 6 seconds. So the career highlights is a little bit different than a normal chronological resume. You could call it accomplishments. I call it career highlights. And because it's a little bit different, maybe people take a look at it before they start scanning, the rest of the chronological resume. Now, when you take this resume and you make it a deconstructed resume for the bots, I use Arial 12-point font, and then I move this skills section. You take the columns out and you make everything left justified on the ATS resume, and you move the skills to the end. You don't call them core competencies, you call them skills. Here's an article, how to avoid the applicant tracking system black hole. So I have 19 points here that you can read and, there we go, that you can read and, check, double check and see what you're doing with applying to jobs. The last one, before I get into all the demos, is prepare a portfolio presentation. Well, interesting thing. If you prepare a portfolio, things have changed since I created my portfolios even a few years ago. I used to use PowerPoint. I used to use Google Slides. I would not do that per se for a presentation these days. I might go to Canva and create a presentation, or maybe I would use Google Slides. I don't use PowerPoint anymore. I haven't for years. I like being able to update a presentation, and if I give somebody the link, they have it, and if they go and visit it 8 months later, it'll be updated with any information that I provide. So there is a book which you can probably get from your library. It's called Active Interviewing by Eric Kramer. And I got my idea for a portfolio presentation by reading this book. It's, near the end. So what can you put in a portfolio? Overview, resume, cover letter, transcripts, clearances, certifications. Oh my goodness. Why do these windows keep popping up? All right. Recognitions in the news, publications, letters of recommendation. Oh my goodness. How do I get this window? I want to get this window. I can't get this window out of the way. All right, we're going to do it this way. All right, so I'm going to go into greatcareers.org because I've written 2 articles about portfolios. Portfolio. All right, so the first one is tips on how to build an impressive career portfolio. In the deck, I gave you 8 sections that you could use. Here's even more. A lot more than 8. You know, when I really had time to think about it and research it, you know, you can put together a portfolio any way, shape, or form you want. Now, you can have an electronic portfolio, but you can also print a portfolio. When I was going to an interview with a company in 2013, I printed my portfolio and they were so impressed. I customized the cover with the company logo and I made a couple extra copies. So I had bunches of people, you know, interviewing me, and I actually wound up having 8 interviews there. It's kind of crazy, and I did get the job. And it was like 45 minutes to an hour away. So I wasted so much time driving, interviewing, preparing this career portfolio, and I didn't get the job. Maybe it was a blessing. But they were still impressed that I took the time to create something that I could leave behind. Now, the other career portfolio is if you want an online career portfolio, it's called Win the View. And Win the View is an online platform. And you can put in your accomplishment stories, resume, interview presentations. Like, you can customize this in any way, shape, or form that you want. But it guides you along. Okay, I hear some typing, so somebody may want to.
Oh, sorry, that was me. I was prepared to ask you a question. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, ask away.
Okay, so this is from Alex, and it is about the portfolio. Lynn, what percentage of job interviews require a portfolio presentation?
What percentage? There's that's not like a clear answer that I can answer, or a clear question that I can answer. It's more like, how do you want to differentiate yourself to stand out? So if you are a mid to senior level executive making 6 or 7 digit figures, you might want to ramp up your presentation and career portfolio. And you can do this by using a platform like Win the View. So it has a place where you can record a video, you put your resume in, and you can customize the presentations with the company's colors, logos, etc. It's like having a personal website. And once you're done interviewing, and if you've landed the job, you can turn off the website, so to speak, so it's not live. And then not pay for it monthly, obviously. But for people that want to have a website, but only a temporary website, this might be an option to explore. I'm having the owner of Wind of You come and speak, I think in September at Great Careers Group, and we're giving away some platforms for 3 months. It's worth $195. So I scheduled him, but I have to reschedule him because I've been asked to do a presentation the same night. So I'm gonna book him for another night. But stay tuned on that. We had under resources, it says Bang Chem Pharma member contest. So here it is. Enter our drawing until available subscriptions run out. So we were given 15 subscriptions by a generous donor and sponsor. And I didn't have enough people apply for it. So I'm going to try again. I had a contest. All you had to do was like our YouTube channel and fill out a form saying that you were interested. I didn't have enough people apply. Kind of crazy. So I'm going to try again in the fall.
Excuse me, Lynn. So there's a question from Valerie. What do you mean that you created a career portfolio and you left it behind? You created it for that job and gave it to them?
Yes. So I printed out, my resume, my cover letter. I did a PowerPoint deck kind of thing. And I went to Staples and, the spiral binding stuff, they, spiral bound it with the clear cover and, the black or blue at the end. So let me go on here. In 2020, I applied to Gwynedd Mercy. And again, I think this might have been is this a PowerPoint or something? I don't know. Yep, this is a PowerPoint. It's PPTX. So I made this PowerPoint and I got these ideas from that book, Active Listening or Active Interviewing. So I made this deck, and I would do this so differently now that I know how to use Canva. But my technology skills in this area have changed immensely over the past few years. So I would have added this deck to the resume and the cover letter and references and whatnot, and put it in this spiral binding and left it behind. You don't want to do that on the first interview, but maybe if you come back for a second interview, it's something that'll definitely make you stand out. I've heard from some people that have tried this that they landed the job because they took the pains of doing this. Here's another one. Montgomery County Community College. I applied for part-time career coach and kind of did the same thing. What are the requirements? How do I match? It's kind of like a T-style cover letter in a way, a little bit more about me. But again, I would do this totally differently now than I did in the past.
Excuse me, Lynn.
Yep.
So there's a follow-up question from Valerie. Is the Chem Pharma only for professional or can students apply?
Chem Pharma is for mid to senior level, and we just took over Chem Pharma at Great Careers Group in the past weekish or so. So people who are students can join our group as professionals, professional memberships. But Bang Business Executives Networking Group and Chem Pharma is for mid to senior level. Okay, so here's my upcoming speaking schedule, my events on the Great Careers page, my contact information, more information, and now I'm going to do live demos. So we're going to go back to that, this particular slide. All right, first thing, wish I could get this. I can't get this thing out of the way. Is there a way, David, of moving this, microphone thing from
There should be
the control panel?
I know the control panel. There should be the same set. Now, I'm not a Mac person. There should be the same set of 3 dots: the red, the yellow, and the green. I would think you can minimize it. The Windows
there's no red, yellow, green.
Then,
All right.
Then maybe just drag it all the way to the bottom, and most of it will be hidden. But we don't see that.
I can't drag it. All right.
That's fine.
Okay.
We don't see that. We don't see the control
right.
panel. That's your control panel. And so you're moving your whole browser out of the way, I see. All right.
Yeah, I can't get to opening up a new tab without moving it because it's in the way and I can't drag and drop it.
All
so
good.
Bear with me. We'll make it work here.
Thank you.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to LinkedIn. We're going to hit the Jobs tab. And for those of you who have seen me, you know this is my favorite example. Oops. Project manager. I'm in the greater Philadelphia area. Whoops. What in the world? I was going to say. All right. You can see that in the dark blue, there's 2,412 results. That's how many jobs there are in greater Philadelphia for project manager. So if I do project management, there's now 19,050. So which word do you think you want to use on your LinkedIn profile? Now, if I were to go to Google Trends, trends.google.com, and I were to put in project manager, and we're going to compare that to project management, without typos. What Google's giving me is United States in the past day. Well, I want to hone in a little bit more. I want Philadelphia. I could get the Delaware, Wilmington side of Philadelphia. I could get the Cherry Hill, New Jersey side of Philadelphia, or the Pennsylvania side of Philadelphia. So I'm in PA. I don't want the past day. I want to, let's go back 90 days. So as far as what's being searched on Google, it's pretty neck and neck. Project management still is a little bit above project manager. And some days, there's been peaks of when project manager's been searched more on Google. But all in all, because I'm dealing with LinkedIn and jobs, I tend to just pay attention to LinkedIn. So you have to look up the keywords. And I normally do a spreadsheet, which we're going to get to. Okay. Here's my Google sheet. So let me pull that up. And then here's a Google Doc. I'm going to do a demo with wordart.com. Oh, little messages keep popping up. So I've written down step-by-step instructions. Now, remember in March, April, we were in the pandemic, and maybe some of you applied to some jobs, and all of a sudden the world stopped. So your job application was in limbo. Nobody knew what the heck was going on. If in fact the company took down the job application and then they figured a few months later, oh my gosh, we still have to have people to keep doing business, even though we're figuring out a new way of doing business. So we got to still interview people. Well, if they took that job down and you didn't snag a copy of it, the job description, and you got called for an interview, how would you know what the job description was in order to prepare for it? You wouldn't exactly. So here's an example. It's searching, 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 and there's no job that comes up anymore because that job has been taken down. So I like to use Google Docs, and I will copy and paste the job description into the Google Doc. Here's my step-by-step. So here's the job description. Then I'm going to read this, and there's keywords and key phrases, okay, that I'm highlighting it just like my college textbook. All right. And then now LinkedIn has skills, and they definitely look differently now than they did in the past. So I let's go look at a job. Let's see, project management. All right, let's look at this one. Senior Client Services Manager in Berwyn. So here's the job. So let's pull this one up. And see, it has skills. When I click on skills, skills are now hidden unless you have premium. So right here, it shows the skills that somebody took the time to highlight are important for this job. So if you have premium, you have to pay attention to these skills. And maybe these are the ones that you want to weave in to your core competency section along with your other skills. Sorry, I was not planning on getting sick before this presentation and doing what I can here.
Oh, excuse me, Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a question from Kelly. Is there a link to the directions that you're showing us?
Yes, there is. I'm going to give you the link to the deck at the end because I can't access it right now. Okay, and then all you have to do is click on this.
Good, and I'll put that in chat later along with your contact information. And of course, this program is being recorded as well, and it will be on the Breakfast Club's YouTube channel by the end of the weekend.
All right. Okay, so analyzing the job descriptions, you've got keywords and key phrases. So we have here development of content in support of blah, 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 blah. You know, to me, that's a key phrase. Coordinating proposals and marketing requests. Well, maybe proposals is a keyword. Marketing requests is a keyword, But if I wanted to use that as a key phrase, I could weave that into the verbiage in my resume if I was customizing and tailoring this resume from my base resume for this particular job. So now, let's say we have our list of keywords. We're going to go to, I'm going to move this around. We're going to go to the Google Sheet, and we're going to look up these words. So I already looked up the words, just like I showed you how to do project manager and project management. You hit the jobs tab, you put the word in, you put your major metropolitan area in, and you come up with a number. Beware, you do not want to misspell. So I've had a client who was in the apparel industry, and they had apparel spelled A-P-A-R-R-E-L in their skill section. Not a good thing. So you have to spell it right. So then when you've got these numbers in here, you can then sort this information. Okay. If I wanted to do data, sort range, column Z to A, or column B, Z to A, most to least. Okay. So now you can see training has 44,567, customer service. So when you sort most to least, and then if I were to copy and paste it alphabetically, I'm going to start seeing trends with the color coding system that I have that I work with clients. So we examine your skills on your LinkedIn profile. A brain dump of skills is another color. And 3 job descriptions are 3 different colors. So when you start mashing this stuff together, you now have hundreds of words, and you analyze your data. And you have to pick out the best words for whatever purpose you're going to use them in. In your skills section, you can only have 50 words. In the about section, you can add more. In the experiences, you can add embellished job titles up to 100 characters. You can also weave in keywords in your experiences. So I believe in data-driven decision-making. I think that comes from my K-12 teacher days. You know, we have to have data to drive decisions as to what the, you know, instruction should be for students. So I applied that concept to resumes and LinkedIn. Now, here is a word cloud article. There are some step-by-step instructions here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live demo on this so that you can see how to do this. I got to keep moving this around so I can get to the doggone screen here. All right. So here we have this senior client services manager. Here's about the job. I click on see more. Now, I don't need the benefits, but I need the qualifications and about the job. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to wordart.com. And I'm going to ask this free technology to analyze my job description. So here, I'm going to click on Dashboard, and I'm going to click on Create. And remember, I copied the job description, so it's kind of like hanging on the end of my mouse. So I click in the top left, Import. I paste the job description. I can take out the word qualifications. That's just a header. I can take out responsibilities. All right. Now, I want to remove common words. A, and the do not need to be analyzed. Remove numbers. Their numbers have no bearing on me. And stemming. Most people don't know what stemming is, but I want to uncheck that box. When I tell you what stemming is, you'll say, oh, yeah, I know what stemming is, but I didn't know it was called that. So stemming has to do with root words, like strategic is a root word of strategically. So you want to check, uncheck, and then in a nanosecond, watch this. I'm going to click import words. It's going to tell me how many times each of these words was used in the job description. And if I start scrolling here, it'll take it all the way down to the onesies. Now, I typically would look at maybe the first or second page and see if there's any keywords that I need to include. Now, if I hit the red visualize button, I will get a word cloud. Well, it's a little hard to read with those colors. So I'm going to click on style, and I'm going to click in the middle of those three colors, and I'm going to move this around, make one of these black, and I'm going to take one of these reds away and hit close. Now, if I don't like that font, I can click on fonts. I typically use Expressway. When I hit visualize again, it's going to give me something a little bit easier to read. So I know that when I'm applying to this job, client, insurance, industry, life, manage, account, business, like these are words that are important that I need to weave in to, my resume.
Excuse me, Lynn.
Now,
So,
yep.
Yep, there's a question from Valerie. She wrote that this is from just a couple minutes ago. She blinked. How did you get to these keywords?
How did I get? Okay, I used wordart.com. Okay, let's start again.
And remember, we do have this recorded as well, so this could be the quick recap. Yep.
So wordart.com, and I click on dashboard.
And she just added a comment. It was the Excel file that she was showing. And Valerie, if you want to unmute real quickly, Valerie, and kind of
the Google sheet.
What you're asking.
Yes, this Google sheet. I didn't know where you pulled that from. Thank you.
Oh, well, you just create it. Yeah. You can create an Excel sheet or Google sheet, just from scratch. So
and where were you getting those numbers from?
Okay, so where am I getting the numbers from? Again, I go to I go to the Jobs tab. I type in training, and I don't want United States. I want Greater Philadelphia. You want to gather all your data from one major metropolitan area. 96,880 is training. Now, if I were to change this to trainer, it goes down to 1,328. Which word do you think you want to use on LinkedIn? So to me, it's all about the keywords. You've got to have the right keyword and the right version or synonym of the keyword. And the only way you're going to know that is if you do the research, record your data, you know, and I like Google Doc or Google Sheets. The only thing I use from Microsoft is probably Word for the resume. Okay, so let me take you to a couple profiles, because there's, how much time do I have, just so I know where I'm at?
Maybe another 15 minutes or so.
Okay. So I'm going to go to LinkedIn and I'm going to show you a couple more things that will help you build your brand and stand out. So I'm going to take you to Ed. He and his girlfriend are moving to California next month. So I'm going to take you to headlines.sharethrough.com, and we're going to analyze his keywords and his USP, unique selling proposition, on his headline in LinkedIn. Here he has 219 characters out of 220. 100, 100, 100. This first 100 is the overall score. The second one is engagement score. Third one is impression score. This is the only time this has ever happened to me that I got 300s. I was pretty stoked, I have to tell you. Now, let's just talk about his profile for a minute. Although he needs professional pictures, he'll have to work on getting that. At least he's got something. So he's a rugby player. And he just got his ref certificate. So he doesn't have any pictures with his rugby ref certificate. Just him as a rugby player. Now, I want to talk about the About section. Here we start out with Human Resources Manager. Bam. No fluffy adjectives. And this is that paragraph, the profile summary paragraph at the top of the resume. This headline, beginning part, this is what's at the top of the resume. But if the job description said human manager of human resources, he would change that on his resume to match the job that he's applying to. Let's go down to his About section. If you have a wall of paragraphs, I think 78% of people look at LinkedIn profiles on their phone. You might have them read perhaps one paragraph, but they're not going to read a wall of paragraphs. You have to have something that stands out, breaks apart the text, and so little pops of color and emojis, bullet pointy things, and you have to have that human factor. You have to show you're likable, relatable, in some way, shape, or form. But here's where you can put in words that are not in the skills section. So I'm a proponent of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, accessibility, and justice. Well, what's going to give you a better result on LinkedIn? It's probably going to be diversity and inclusion, or maybe the different words separately. But how do you get the concept in for all of this and still get it in LinkedIn? So you have to put the right words in the database in the skills section, but you can put your own words as part of your story in the about section. Here we have seeking new opportunity, hashtag ONO, hashtag open to work. If you are currently employed, you can put those words in a previous job because it's still searchable on LinkedIn. But if you currently are working, you definitely want to put that in your about section. So if people are skimming and scanning and reading, they will see that. And then you need to put your contact info at the bottom of your about section. Well, here I am, a first level connection to him. I'm going to see his LinkedIn email, his mobile number, and his email. You're not a first level connection to him. You're only going to see his LinkedIn URL. So if you don't make it easy for people to reach out to you, then that's a problem. You've got to give them, at least your phone number and your email so that people can see it publicly. Now, if you're a single woman and you have concerns about, creepy people and stalkers and whatnot, you can always put in a Google phone number. So if you go to Great Careers and go to the contact info page, here's where all our social media is. But look at this. This phone number is a Google phone number. Do you know where it goes to? Lynne's cell phone. But I have a little hint as to when somebody's calling that number, it says, it makes the person say their name, and it says push 1 if you want to accept. And that way I know somebody is calling for Great Careers. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We don't have, an office and a staff and, phone system. We don't have any of that, This is Lynne's office, and here's the address, it really is a commercial office building, but, I did not want to publicize my personal phone number on the nonprofit's website. Now, if some point in time, I get hit by a Mack truck or keel over, that Google phone number is going to have to be switched to go to somebody else. Now, here we go. This is an embellished job title. So I'm going to take you to somebody else's profile in a minute and tell you a story about him. But you could have up to 100 characters to embellish a job title. Now, when you have good content from your resume, everything should be starting with a verb in the past tense if it was a past job. And if you put bullet point, white space, it's not smashed together. So it's readable by the human eye, yet it's still there for the bots. When you go down to the 50 skills, you have to make sure your top 3 skills are the ones that are visible. And then you need to review your 50 skills and make sure that you've got good words that you've looked up. I had one client clean out 35 of his 50 words because he's like, oh my God, I don't want to do that anymore. So, this stuff happens over time, somehow or another things magically appear because you've clicked on it and you didn't know LinkedIn in the beginning of time like you maybe know now. So you definitely need to review your existing skills on LinkedIn. And if somebody's endorsed you, maybe 6 people have endorsed you, no big deal. Get rid of it if it's not a good word. 6 endorsements is not a whole bunch. Now, if you have 93 endorsements, different story. That's a little bit harder to click and make go away. So let me take you to David. David could use a revamp. I did him in February of 2022. I wasn't doing what I call a USP, unique selling proposition. One night, he made 2 changes to his LinkedIn profile. One was his headline. The other one was his embellished job titles. In 2 to 3 days, he got a call from a recruiter who was looking for keywords, latency and co-location. Now, if we go up to the top, you see co-location here, but you don't see latency. So I can tell you from experience, and this is like the example, that David was found because of this embellished job title. Let me pull up Dan, okay? So Dan is a graphic designer. He owns a business. He'd like to go back to getting a job. He's an Aussie living in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. So here, are keywords, and then here's his USP, unique selling proposition, crafting compelling visual stories to elevate brands from down under to up over the top with cutting edge creative solutions. So if we were to take this and pop it into share through, and analyze it, it's 198 out of 220 characters, 97, 95, 100. So how do you make yourself stand out, differentiate yourself to help you build your brand? Going down to his activity section, again, this came right from the resume. That's that profile summary paragraph. And then now it's just making him human, his little Aussie ingenuity. And here you've got core competencies and technical skills. And we've got seeking new opportunity. And he was owner founder. We had to have him change that to creative director. So it doesn't look like he's, a business owner looking for a job. It looks more like he works for this company as a creative director, even though it's exactly what it was. I'm going to show you another technique. I worked with his dad years ago, and so his dad hired me to help his son who just graduated in robotics from the University of Delaware. So we've got the keywords, we've got the USP, and for those of you in tech, if you've got some software skills, you can put the logos of the software in the banner. And again, break the little paragraphs apart. You got core competencies and technical skills. And you notice these are all in alphabetical order. So that way people can process, exactly what it is that he has. So he's looking to start his first job. Anybody's a mechanical engineer or robotics, give me a hand. I think that's
Excuse me.
all that I've got today, so I'm ready for questions.
Oh, good, because I'm ready to ask you a question. So again, this is in chat. This is from Kelly. What do you put in a headline if you have worked a variety of jobs / volunteer work and you don't really have a specific job that you're looking for?
It's called clarity. You have to know what you want to be when you grow up. You have to hyper focus on a job to get a job. 1, maybe 2 titles. Pick a lane and stick in it. You can't be all over the map. Otherwise, nobody will know exactly what you do. When you position yourself in your paragraph, robotics nerd, you're basically saying, this is me. This is what I do. And you're positioning, in these words here, and your key words relate to that future forward. So if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, maybe you need to do a career assessment, but you can't be all over the map as a job seeker. You have to be hyper-focused and targeted.
Okay, thanks. And then for anybody else who's got a question, maybe it might just be easier at this point, quickly unmute and just let Lynn know of your question just before we wrap up. This is the point in the meeting we play Jeopardy music.
Okay.
But I'm not singing.
I think we have some business owners in here. So let me just pull up a client who's a business owner. You might not remember Tanya's name, but if you were interested in exploring franchises, you're going to remember this because the impression. So let's look at her headline. Franchise your business, franchise consultant, realtor. Better than a triple dip ice cream, providing you with a trifecta of solutions to multiply your business, find the right fit business, or real estate. So she runs 3 businesses. So we're playing on 3, triangle. So you've got triple, trifecta. If you don't remember her name, but you remember franchise and ice cream, that made an impression on you. So somebody's going to remember to go do a search in LinkedIn, franchise and ice cream, franchise and trifecta. So that's the idea of the share through headline, and to make yourself differentiated. So about section, we're treating it a little bit differently. Here's business 1, business 2, business 3. She still has core competencies and contact info.
There are a couple questions now. Oh, sorry.
Go. Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you finish your point.
The point is, these techniques work just as well for entrepreneurs as they do for job seekers.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, excuse me. So we have
That's right.
2 questions. One is from Kelly. Do you have suggestions of career assessments to try?
Yes. So, ONET online. Oops. .com? Why is it coming up like that? What am I doing wrong? Is it .net?
The one that I have for them is occupationalinfo.org/onet. Is that not the same one?
Let me try .net. All right. Oh, .org. Let's see if this works. Yeah, here it is. onetonline.org. Here's I want to be a. So go ahead and explore, this. And then there's, what is it, 16? No, not 16 candles. Career. No. Oh, Clifton Strengths Assessment. You can buy that book, Strengths Finder. There's a website. 16. I don't know whether it's .org, .com. Truity. Career. I'm going to have to look that one up. I know it's got 16 in it, but there's something that I'm missing. If you go to if I could just type today.
Is it 16 personalities?
Is it 16 personalities?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Yep. Thank you. So also we have something new here under our resources tab on Great Careers. We have a career assessment from Org Insights, and there's this assessment, which is regular, a self-assessment, a 360 assessment, and then both. So it's pretty reasonably priced. If you know Ed Samuel, he has a career direct assessment that's a little pricey, but man, oh man, it's like super duper comprehensive. And I mean, there's just so many different career assessments out there. So it depends on what your budget is.
Yeah, Ed presented to the group last month. And so as a reminder, folks, you can reach out to Ed.
Yep. He's a great guy. So also, as a member of the Great Careers Group, we do have some free assessment sources that we give people when they purchase the memberships. So
yeah, a couple more questions.
Oh, and I want to show you. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you want to show?
Yeah. Here's our events page. I just want to point one thing out. So here you have the event, and you have to actually open it up to see that you had to register with the Breakfast Club. And then this one says get tickets. So some of the events are our events, and those will be the ticketed events. Other events are affiliate events or me speaking. But if you go down to the very bottom of the page, I got to do a little update here, you'll see all of the events for the month. And if you clicked on, here's August 19th, I teach a 3-hour LinkedIn workshop every month, and it's free. So you have to register with the library. So this would be an affiliate event, so to speak. So you'll find all those links down at the bottom of the events page. Okay, ready for your question.
Okay, this one is from Rhonda. Is there an easy way to download a company list from LinkedIn, such as contacts and companies they work for?
I think Rhonda needs to come on off mute and explain that.
Oh, no, I think you had, I actually went to your last session and you mentioned something about you can pull your key contacts and companies they work for. I thought you did a download of some sort and I didn't catch it when in last week's session.
Oh, um, of your own information?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you go to My Network on your LinkedIn profile, and over here in Connections, okay, over at the top right, it says Manage Synced and Imported Contacts. And then second one down says Export Contacts. So you can export your own contacts on LinkedIn. Now I have over 17,000, but as far as companies, I don't know. I mean, you just probably have to create a company list. Um, and
Also, you can use data solutions for that, or reference solutions. I'm sorry.
yeah, reference solutions. Now, as an FYI, just because I've been sick all week here, my analytics are down because I haven't participated on the platform. But I do want to show you. This is my newsletter, Career News Today. I have over 5,400 subscribers, and these are not all my editions. Like I've written over 200 articles, but if you do subscribe, you will get a new topic every week when I put out my newsletter, and it's all career related, so it may help you in some way, shape, or form. So if I were to go down to one that has a newspaper, I'll find it here. It's coming. It's coming. There we are. So you are the best, how to boost your LinkedIn headline score. So if you click on this, I found a lady who had integrated digital marketing professional as her headline. And when I ran it through this headlines.sharethrough.com, it gave me a 38, 62, and 15. I changed it out and played with it a little bit and got it to green, yellow, green. And so aside from integrated digital marketing professional, we have social media, email marketing, SEM, SEO, web services, graphic designer, Google Analytics. And she's telling me on her LinkedIn profile, she's got really great conversions and engagements. So let's talk about that. Conversions and engagements better than hot buttery popcorn at the movies. So do you think if we went on LinkedIn and put marketing and hot buttery popcorn or popcorn, we would find her with a name that I can't even remember how to spell because she's from some, Eastern Bloc country and I don't remember the spelling of her name. So the idea is to make that impression. Figure out how to make people remember you.
Okay.
Questions?
Yep. So there's a question from Stevie. I am thinking of posting more often on LinkedIn. Should I share personal stories? I never see nurses sharing their experiences. For example, currently I post once a year.
Oh my goodness, yes. So let's go down to this article. This is one of my newsletter articles. Commenting on LinkedIn can create visibility, discoverability, and credibility. Your commenting strategy is probably more important than your posting strategy. And the reason my numbers are tanking this week is because I had more clients work come in this week than I've ever had before, and I got sick. So I did not do what I normally do in commenting a little bit on LinkedIn every day. You got to comment before you post, and then comment some more. So if you're going to post, don't make it once a year. Have a consistent schedule, but make it, something that's doable. But if you can't come up with a post, at least comment on other people's posts. So if you have target companies or people that work at target companies, that's a great way of commenting on their posts so that you bring attention to yourself. There's some people on LinkedIn that are pretty big names, and by me just commenting on their posts, and then I reached out to connect with a personal message saying, I'm really enjoying your posts. You put out really great content. I'd love to connect. So it's a way of bringing attention to yourself is through commenting. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, and there's one more question from Valerie. Is there an FAQ that will show you how to add the links as seen in Matthew Urban's banner? I thought everything had to be an image.
Say that again. So, read that to me again.
Is there an FAQ or maybe a how-to that will show how to add the links as seen in Matthew Urban's banner?
There's no links here. This is an image from Canva. So these are icons that I got from Google. So let's talk about this for one hot minute. I'm going to go to my profile, and right here I have more gobsmacking resources. There you go. This is my link tree, my link of links. So the first link, it will take you to the Great Careers Nonprofit. The second link is my upcoming speaking events. And it just so happens to be that on Thursday night, I'm teaching how to create snazzy graphics for LinkedIn and social media. So I will be doing live demos on how to create that banner on LinkedIn. So how do you get to that? Well, this is just a list. So it says, registration details will be at. So let's go to that events page. And there we go. How to create snazzy graphics for LinkedIn from social media. Well, there's no tickets. So this is not my event. I'm just speaking at Career Networking Group, Montgomery County. So you have to actually register on their meetup. This group was founded by George Schoenwolf, who we lost a couple months ago to cancer. But, his team is still keeping the group alive, and still having speakers. So George had scheduled me long ago. But you have to join that meetup in order to RSVP and get to the link. And for that group, you don't want to wait till the last minute. So it's better that you say you're going and not show up than not go at all. Questions?
Okay, so our chat does not have any more questions, so might be good time to wrap up. I did post your contact information, Lynn, in chat, which includes the greatcareers.org website, your email address, and your mobile. So for anyone who would like to follow up with Lynn, you certainly can do so. Just grab that information off the chat. And you could download the chat now before we wrap up the meeting. you can do so either. There might be 3 dots next to the word chat. That's a drop down. Or maybe in your upper left corner, you have a go to meeting icon and there's a drop down there. We will also be posting the chat log in the next couple of days on the speakers page of the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. But Lynn, as always,
I just put the link to the deck in the chat.
There you go.
So click on that bit.ly job search for me. That'll take you to the deck, and then you can go and click on any of the other links in the deck.
Yeah, Lynn, which is what she's done, I guess, forever, is her slide decks always have active links. So whether you have the PDF or the original version, you can get that as well. But Lynn, thank you for being such a great supporter of, well, not just job seekers in general, but also our group, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. I know you've come a long way in the past to East Brunswick, and so we appreciated when you were able to do that. Certainly appreciate you being with us here this morning. And folks, just to let you know, we do have, if you did not know, a website, thebreakfastclubnj.com. And then there's a speakers page under the About Us menu, and you can always see prior speaker documents that we were able to post, as well as our upcoming schedule. And next month will be September 9th. Ken Lang will be here. So anyone who has additional LinkedIn questions will be interested in knowing. Ken will be talking about LinkedIn best practices for job search. And Ken is a local LinkedIn authority, probably more than local, at the very least national. He hosts weekly events as well with discussions and such. So a terrific person that will be with us, Ken Lang, next month, September 9th, 8 o'clock in the morning, virtually. And you soon will be able to get that link on the website as well. So we will keep the virtual meeting open for a minute, well, a few minutes more, not a minute, a few minutes more. If anyone who wants to hang around and do some virtual networking, and but until we get to see you next month, we will say bye, everybody.